So like David said, I'll talk about text adventures with Python. I'll first talk about retrieval chatbots like Siri and Mycroft, just to get to motivate why we're even doing this, or why I'm thinking about this. Then we'll talk about finite state machine chatbots, or FISMs, or deterministic chatbots, or video game chatbots, the kinds of things that we are using deterministic chatbots for two of our products called Maya and Cindy, which are, well, Maya is helping teenagers in Nepal deal with or learn how to recognize and avoid child traffickers. And then Cindy is helping people deal with imposter syndrome. inkjs is a really cool tool for building those video games and finite state machines. And then I'll talk about a hybrid that we're building. I've already talked about query in the past, or carry or query, whatever we're calling it these days. But want to mainly talk about FactQuest, the reason that the motivation for all of this stuff that I'm talking about now. So retrieval chatbot. So a retrieval chatbot just has some very, very smart AI. So it doesn't really require a lot of different modules. As long as that central module is really smart, it can go out to the web, find what it's looking for, and then extract the bit of information that you're looking for. And so if you ask a Siri or Mycroft or some other retrieval-based chatbot, who was Stanislav, it'll go to the Wikipedia page and find some statement like, early on the morning of September 26, 1983, Stanislav Petrov prevented essentially nuclear holocaust. And so then query could interpret that any way they wanted to, extract any pieces of that article that they thought the human was interested in based on all the things that human had talked about in the past, and could reply with something like the man who saved the world the second time. And anybody's interested in the first time that I think that ever happened would be in the Cuban Missile Crisis, when some very creative Navy guys decided that it would be funny to drop grenades on top of a nuclear submarine that they were tracking in order to let them know that they were there. And that, of course, sent that sub into a panic, and they almost launched their weapons. But fortunately, the captain had a cool head. The finite state machines that allow us to have a more sort of human-like interaction with the user rather than just retrieving bits and pieces of information and responding. The basic finite state machine is, you can think of as a regular expression. Each symbol that it reads through in a sentence is a transition. So it's really hard to see in this diagram. You can find this on Wikipedia, but like the first letter is in. And so if you're trying to spell out the word Nick and you're trying to recognize that as a command, then you would, each of those letters would come in and move you from one state to the next. And so these states were marked sequentially. And if you ever entered anything other than that, then that would be a failed match. And so this would be like none returned by a regular expression. This would be like triggering some action like a command. So finite state machine is just a set of states and the transitions between them. And typically the transitions between them are some action that some other machine has taken or some human has taken, like typing those letters into their keyboard. Actually, I want to talk about this last, I think. And I seem to be missing a slide. No, I guess this will do. So FactQuest is the reason we're building this, we need something more complicated than query to deal with an education problem. So high school kids are not learning critical thinking skills like they used to. And they're getting really good at retrieval of information, Googling and copying and pasting, but the writing and and the core skill that's required for writing, which is critical thinking, has been on the decline by most measures for the past few decades. So at least in the US. And so we're gonna try to help deal with that for the Schmidt Futures proposal for the tools competition. we're putting in a proposal to build this thing called FactQuest. So we're going to try to target it towards people who can't get access to the internet, so disadvantaged groups that only have SMS. So the entire application has to be accessible over SMS. So we're going to start with some games of various kinds, brain teasers, you might have heard of them, puzzles, yes, no, mysteries. So one of those might be something like, can you see the pyramids from space? The goal is to get the student to ask questions about the question rather than going straight to the answer, yes or no. And so a finite state machine would then take that that input of what the use of the, so in green here is what the student might say. So if he says, well, that's not making much progress to any further state. So that would be like the fallout of the regular expression we saw earlier, kind of an error message. And so that would send it back with some sort of help message or some sort of coaxing to try to get them to ask some other sorts of questions, like ask me anything. And then if they do ask, so are you talking about Giza, which pyramids? Are you talking about the Mayan pyramids, or how big are the pyramids? Those are all making progress. And so that would bring them to another level in the game, if you will, for this particular game. And so that could then affect the state. So the state is then captured for the human in those green boxes to the far right. So they might have, be given some experience points, and then they're going to be asked then prompted to ask additional questions to move them forward in the game. Ultimately, trying to coax them through figuring out this problem, maybe even employing some math skills to figure out what things are, what things can be seen from space and at various locations in space, not only low Earth orbit from the space station, but maybe even the moon. Now, if I can go back a slide, dang, there we go. inkjs is kind of a cool tool that allows you to interact with these finite state machines in real time as you're building them. And it also has another really cool feature that that allows you to create this. You're creating a text file. Basically, it's a programming language in itself, kind of like Markdown or some sort of other kind of hierarchical or tree-based outline form, so that you can, and it has various symbols that you can use to create links to other parts of the graph or parts of the tree. So it's, I'm looking forward to playing with it. I haven't played with it, but it would be something that we might be able to use to help teachers and students even compose their own adventures in FactQuest. So at least that's the concept. We're still, if anybody has ideas for the kinds of things that might trigger this sort of critical thinking and mystery solving and curiosity that we'd like to get out of the students, we have access to, of course, Query to do the retrieval-based question answering. So they can ask the bot and the assistant anything, but of course we don't want these to be answerable by a simple, by asking Query for the direct answer. We want it to be questions that a bot can't answer, but a human can, through several stages of logic. I'll talk about, oops, didn't mean to do that. I've got a little bit more to talk about. I'm going to show another. So if you ask this on Stack Overflow, or if you ask for, actually, I don't know where the article was. Maybe I got it in the code here. So I found this, basically I found this code on a Stack Overflow look for tools to build text adventures with. And it's somebody doing code review. I don't know if y'all know, but there's this thing called Code Review, a channel on Stack Exchange for people who just want to have their code reviewed. So somebody reviewed this code and came up with a slightly data-driven approach to it to create the state machine, where you can actually define these transitions as data. I'm going in and trying to convert it even more into data to make it actually a CSV file, so that you can read it in and play these text adventures, these games, or these fact quests that we're building and just a simple Excel spreadsheet. So hopefully it might be possible, if I can figure out how to do it correctly, for teachers and students to just simply write up this in an Excel spreadsheet or any other kind of spreadsheet application, or even just a text file. If inkjs doesn't turn out to be user-friendly. We're going to also have researchers doing this to find out, doing something called learning engineering. And in the course of this proposal, I've learned a lot about things like learning engineering. Apparently there's a whole discipline around researchers trying to figure out how to engineer tools to help people learn. And so we're looking forward to having some of those researchers build these quests or these fact adventures and mysteries so that we can help students build their skills, especially those that are stuck away from the internet and can't have access to even Zoom for these one-on-one conversations that are normally required to build those sorts of skills in students. Anything else? I guess that's it. Any questions?
Are you going to rebuild Dwarf Fortress?
I'm going to rebuild my old, my personal childhood favorites. Mine are much older than that.
Zor.
I have a question, Hobson. Wondering, sorry, apparently this computer doesn't have a camera, but about the states of the machine. So like if the states are levels, then like how do you deal with situation? Like it somehow needs to be almost like entirely interconnected, the graph. So like how do you deal with situations where you need like, you know, maybe someone asked a question that would bring them to level 2, but they're like already on level 2. So is there any way not to explicitly define all these connections?
Yeah, so you know this best. I mean, that's what you do in all of your graphs. They're connected in any tangled way you would like them to be connected. But it's going to be our challenge to try to come up with dialogue that does funnel them through some sequence set of stages. They can come out of sequence, they can, but we want them to gain some particular skill. So we'll have to figure out a way. At first it will be handcrafted, and long term we may be able to figure out a way to automate it so that, anyway, that's a whole nother can of worms, but yes, we're going to try to keep it, we're going to try to stratify it, just like, and to create these levels, try to funnel them into these various levels. And if they end up somewhere where we don't want them to, we'll just kick them back to the start or kick them back to one of the previous levels and just tell them you need to do something different. We really do want them to go through this sort of like an exercise.
Can't believe my co-founder is talking about kicking children. You didn't hear that, folks. But yeah, yeah, thanks.
I like the idea of the spreadsheet saving out a CSV file. A teacher could put the name of the school, you know, George Washington Elementary, instead of Forest, make it fun for the kids.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They could be completely customizable. We're just trying to figure out a good interface that will be usable by teachers, and if it's really, really easy, then the students could start making adventures for each other.
What about a web base and you say add row and it lets you just put the fields in right away?
Exactly, with drop downs to support that. So you will be probably building a Django app that can do that, something similar to the admin interface.
Yeah, or is the other one Flask?
Yeah, Flask is a really popular tool for doing that. Anybody else have? Go ahead.
I think an interesting use case that would probably give you a lot of structure, because it seems like one of the big questions is how are you making them ask constructive questions that you can predetermine? It's a game that we played when I was in school. They just called it the animal guessing game, but you give someone 20 questions to guess what animal you're thinking of, and that creates kind of that like critical thinking funneling that you're trying to endorse.
Exactly. That's excellent. Yeah, that's one of the categories of adventure. So I've got a bunch of different kinds of things, like questions. I don't have one right here, but yeah, those are called yes/no problems, where you can ask the bot basically any yes/no question you would like, but with the goal of figuring out what the answer to some question was. I can't find a good one here, but yeah, that's a great idea. So yours was guessing an animal or guessing a person or something like that, just like 20 questions.
Yeah, I especially like animals because based on different people's experiences, like guessing a person or a location or something like that is kind of loaded as a
Yeah.
concept, but everyone knows what animals are. Like they can see an elephant, they can think of an elephant and say like, does it have tusks?
Yep.
Or even like in a science way, you can kind of liken those physical features to going through like the taxonomic levels and teaching that.
That's awesome. Yeah, so we could
I'm
tie
like
to a
the
biology class.
behavior bio nerd.
Awesome.
Like building off what Alex said in the beginning about like this, can you see it from space? Like most of us just think, okay, where a satellite would be is in space. But like Hobson, like you said, like it could be from the moon, it could be from Mars, it could be from the space station or a weather balloon. You know, you want the computer to teach them to ask those logical, hey, let's drill down a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so can you think, so what, like the bot could ask them, so what does space mean to you? Or we'll try to give the bot some sort of personality, so it can be like Watson, not the bot, but the person in the Sherlock Holmes mysteries that is assisting Sherlock in solving the mystery by dropping him little clues here and there. That's going to be the hard part, is constructing those clues so they don't give away the answer, and knowing when to drop them into the conversation.
Yeah, I love the hints part.
That's a good idea. I got to figure out how to put that into a finite state machine. That's going to be the hard part. Or does it just come in from the outside, sort of in a hybrid way, just monitoring the conversation, and whenever things aren't going the right way, it jumps in and says, hey, here's a clue.
A question, the very first part, you were talking about the chatbot. Is that to simulate being a human or to watch for criminal things in a chat? Or both?
I'm sorry, what was what slide?
Oh,
Let's see my slides again.
The chatbot, you said it could be either imitating a person chatting, or it could look for keywords or buzzwords or help with law enforcement. Did you say something like that?
I don't recall that, but oh yeah, early on we were talking about these bots.
Yeah.
We have two bots. Maria has created, and her team created Maya and Cindy for Maya is for preventing child trafficking. They walk people through children through a text adventure of a different sort, a sort of a choose your own adventure book, like where the child is being approached by somebody who has a great job in the big city, and they're asking her friend to come with them. And so you have to decide, are you going to go with your friend? Are you going to tell your friend not to go? And to try to show them all the different things they can do and things they can look out for to avoid being child trafficked.
That's a great use.
I'm
Send the link in the chat right away.
On these deterministic chatbots. Maria has all the experience at this. I'm trying to figure out how I can incorporate the NLP stuff into that. What was that, Maria?
No, I said that I just shared the link for Cindy in the chat, and I'll be sending the interactive stories you were just talking about right away. And guys, we always welcome users, and we always welcome feedback.
You can test it and tell us what you like and don't like.